Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Evermore YouTube channel and podcast. It's Mark and Chris back on Monday night, not at 10 o'clock, like I said last week. No, it's 9:30 or slightly after, just because Mark is a very tired boy and he's trying to get everything sorted. He stayed up to watch the wrong kind of football, which I'm sure a lot of you have done as well in the comments. But we ain't talking about that. We're talking about that round ball that we put in the back of the net 3 times at the weekend and won the game. That's what's going on, Mark. What's going on with you, tired man?
I just need sleep. And I'm trying to combat a cat tonight. He is back. He is being a pain in the arse. So no. Cat is back.
Fans of the podcast, get ready. This little bastard is on one tonight. So I'm sure, Ian, if you're in the comments, you are in for one hell of a night, my friend. One hell of a night. It's a bit like Taylor Swift cam. We should have podcast cam and just watch it causing carnage under the desk, putting wires out left, right, and centre, mate. But we'll see how it
wouldn't be nearly as much as Taylor Swift was on the Super Bowl, I'll tell you that much.
Oh my God. We ain't talking about her. We ain't talking about that. We're talking about Newcastle United. And let's get stuck right. Just before we do, a little reminder, anybody who's watching for the first time, good to see you. Smash subscribe if you can. We'd love you to come and join us. We're so close to 7,000 subs. We're only a few hundred off. So smash that button. Recommend us to family and friends. We're going to have a belter of a 7K giveaway prize. I guarantee it's awesome. Newcastle fans, you'd be loving it. So get involved. Recommend us to family and friends. Get us to that 7K. Because we want to be at 7K. We'd love to be at 7K. We deserve to be at 7K. Come on, guys, get us at 7K. So I'm just trying to say how many times I can say 7K. There we go. But yes, if you can, we'd love you forever. We are live tonight, as always. Smash a comment as you guys always do. It always helps everything flow. Let's get stuck right in. And even though Mark is magic, well, Mark is tired even, sorry. Bruno's magic. There we go. Who's tired now? Right, so Bruno is magic. Mark is tired. Sprinkle a little bit of that magic dust on, mate. How superb was the Brazilian magician at the weekend, mate? What a performance.
Yeah, he was. He was brilliant. It was very noticeable that he was playing in a more advanced role, and we've talked about that, haven't we? About his sort of better period at Newcastle was in that, as great as he was last season in that first sort of 6 months of the club, where he was playing in the opposition half, in and around the box, creating chances, getting goals, and he looked to that sort of version of Bruno on Saturday, and he took his goals really well. The first goal, what a finish! He just ghosted in at the back, and it was those runs, the finding that space, the anticipation, the interceptions, the passing. It was brilliant. Excuse the dog in the background as well.
I've just seen a comment there from Ian. I was just going to say, Bruno thanked Mad Dog for the set piece for his goal. Mark's going to thank his Mad Dog in a minute for this podcast. He's like Dr. Doolittle tonight. There's going to be a fucking parrot's going to fly past in a minute going, 3-2 to the max, 3-2 to the max.
Is it Iago off Aladdin? The Crackers one?
You're throwing an old 90s reference there, mate, aren't you?
Show my age.
Oh, good. But was it Gilbert Godfrey was the actor? I do remember that. Gary's in the comments saying, Chris, Mark, do you think we look better playing a back three with Trips and Miley sitting in front of them? It looked good. Well, while Mark's sorting the zoo out, I will say, Gary, I think it did seem to set everybody well in terms of the positional sense. I think Burn had a bit of protection because of that as well, because we stopped Gibbs White playing through the lines. I think the one time that it kind of fell apart, Mark, was when he found Elanga with that one through ball again that cut right through the middle. And that's because Trips was back over in his normal right back position, and obviously Burn was left exposed a bit, wasn't he? But how did you feel that looked in terms of Eddie? I think Eddie had to change it, didn't he? Because it's not been going well, is the right word probably, or it's not been working for weeks now in terms of that one ball through the middle. We didn't sign that number 6 player, so we had to do something. And you got to give Eddie and the Mad Dog credit, not your Mad Dog, our Mad Dog. Got to give him credit for doing something on the pitch to change things. We've been shouting for weeks for it, mate.
Has he been watching the channel?
Maybe he has.
Yeah. I mean, literally within the week that we did the one about Trippier taking in
number 6.
Yeah, that role. And it was interesting to see. And I thought at times it did look really good because he definitely took up those positions. Miley took up alongside him. It looked, right, okay, you've got that little base of 2 sitting in front of the back 4, back 3 at that point. And it allowed Bruno and Longstaff to play as the 2 further forward. The problem is, when it And I think it just comes down to the fact that they've not done it an awful lot. They've not done it in game time. They might have done it a lot in training, but just not done it in game time. It broke down, and the gaps were there. And when you look again at some of the play later, a little bit later on, actually, I did put together some images of this just to kind of show. I actually haven't uploaded them.
How tired you are. No Super Bowl before podcast in the future for you.
And the gap in behind was sort of, it was really noticeable. So you still had the gap in behind the defence. When Trippier switched back to the right hand side, you really noticed the difference. In the players just didn't seem to adjust at that point. So you ended up with the goal that came from the Gibbs White pass through to Elanga running through, and there were the three central midfielders as normal were all on the right hand side of the pitch, and they're all high. There was nobody in the middle of the field. Gibbs White had the freedom of the City ground to run into. And the other part from that as well, I noticed, particularly first half, and I think Newcastle sorted this out second half, and I think particularly Burn, it looked shaky first half, and I know a lot of people sort of said that. I thought he was exceptional second half, but I think the unit at the back was much better second half. I thought Shaw was a little bit all over the place first half as well, and Botman for that matter. But it was that unit, and they shifted. Botman seemed to be playing far too far right in that middle of in that three in the first half, which a huge gap between himself and Burn, and that really exposed Burn. It wasn't so much the midfield in front of him; it's the fact he didn't really have the support anywhere close to him. Second half, Botman was a little bit closer, so that when they were trying to play those balls or trying to get the ball through, and it's noticeable they switched more to the left-hand side as well, and that's where most of the attacks then came. Botman and Burn ate them up. There was the one moment where the ball goes through and a one-knee screws it up, and how on earth he doesn't score is beyond me. But they were so much better. They shifted that feel of the defensive unit, and they'd seemed much more switched on. There was the offside, which I thought was a really good defensive unit play. But it was a nice little switch. I don't think it lasted too long. And Trippier reverted back to sort of more of a normal sort of wing back almost, rather than playing in the midfield. But I think it really threw Forest. It really caught them off guard, and it just gives something a little bit different to teams now to go, they're going to try something different, because we've not seen an awful lot from the team and from Eddie going forward. It's been very much a 4-3-3. And really reluctant to change anything, from that, unless things have gone spectacularly wrong. It was really interesting to see that.
Yeah, I mean, just a comment there from Simon. We'll put that one up for a bit. I do agree with that, Simon. I did the post-match, and I think a half caught what Izzy from Sky Sports was saying. I can't believe she called that Bruno finish an easy finish. I mean, it was the outside of his foot, taking an unbelievably well-whipped cross, totally deceived the goalkeeper. I'd love to see her put one of them in the back of the fucking net. I mean,
it's DiCanio-esque.
Exactly. I don't care, whether she's a male or a female. That's one of the stupidest punditry comments I've ever heard in my fucking life. David's asking if you've swapped the moggy for a doggy. He's got so many animals, Davis. I thought I'd do it, honestly. But you want to see it before we come on. If you look carefully, there's a cat stealing your soul with its deathly stare there, mate, as well. And he misses a destructive cat. Don't worry, I have a feeling it'll be along any minute now. Skid Mark is saying, good evening, fellow skids. I love that name. Steve Bruce must have many skid marks and then Y fronts. I'm going to have nightmares tonight even thinking about Steve Bruce's Y fronts. George is in the house. Good to see you too, George. Bonsoir to you, Bonnie lad. They're talking about David's talking about Lloyd Kelly coming in. How I was in love with him. But we'll do a separate video, I think, on these Bournemouth things. I've had enough of them, to be honest with you. Me and Mark were talking about this before we came on. They're not bad players, them too, but Christ almighty, if that's the answer for going to the next level, then fuck me. The only another level we're going to achieve is if we buy the 90s boy band fucking CD, I think, because we're not going anywhere further than where we are now with Bournemouth players. But moving on to obviously the rest of the performance. You're right, Mark. I think the change of shape did bamboozle Forest a little bit. I don't think Nuno was expecting it. And it's good to see. It's good to see that we did that, because Forest gave us a pumping at St James's, and I think we were aware of that. I mean, all the talk was about Burn, not to get too much into Burn, but I think we protected him well. I had a conversation with a good mate of mine today about Dan Burn, and Dan Burn does have his strengths. There's no doubt about that. He's a leader. He shouts all the time. He pumps everybody up. He's great in the air and all that kind of stuff. But on the deck against pace, he's very, very suspect, as we all know, and it is a weak point the team's target. But last season he had, probably the two of the fittest players in the Premier League in Joe Linton and Joe Willock, protecting them, tracking back and protecting them. And then Anthony Gordon when he started to come onto his game as well. So I think Burns been exposed a lot this season, Mark, because those players have been missing. And I think we covered him well, didn't we, in that game, which is probably why he didn't get exposed as much.
Yeah, it certainly second half. I think first half they lost it a little bit, and really he suffered from that. He doesn't help himself at times, and he gets himself into an awkward position when he faces
too far up, doesn't he? He gets too sucked into the attack play. He hasn't got legs to come back, man.
And that's part of it. You want him to not sit like ridiculously deep, but you want him to not. Certainly when the play's not his side, you don't want him to venture too far. This was one of the things I sort of brought up. And you can see Burn, as the balls come forward, and one he's just laid it off. I can't remember who it was that then played the ball forward. It was the Forest guy in the centre there. And you can see Elanga's already.
Was this the Gibb White's goal?
This is the one. No, this is the chance beforehand that Dubravka saves.
Right.
So you can see. I mean, Burns in an awful position there. You can see Elanga, but he hasn't turned. He's not yet got into the position to turn himself and start. Elanga's already on his bike. At that point, Burns should be moving. Burns should be, and this is where I called sort of out Botman a little bit as well for this, because Botman's position here, I think, was a little bit suspect too. You can see Miley in the centre. You can see, I think is that Sean? I can't remember who the one in behind it one year.
Sean's jogging back, sadly, which seems to be a reoccurring sentence. He's jogging back. He's just behind the referee, Sean Longstaff.
That's right. So Botman's gone to meet him. Fabian Schär, for me, is too far across in that. If they're going to be that three, he's got to be slightly closer to the edge of the centre circle. Now, at this point, Burns turned and he's starting to run, but Langa's already at full tilt. He's good. He's got no chance at that point. And you just look at that and you go, well, those are things you iron out. Those are things you can learn. You can build on. You can work in the video room, and you can get some of those bits and train about position on the field and all that sort of thing. But he does need help. And like I say, it was very noticeable second half that they did protect him more. They did allow, playing as almost that three. He dropped, and they dropped with him. I think they dropped 5 yards. Botman and Schär dropped 5 yards as well. He kept players in his vision. He was able to see where they're coming from. He didn't have his back turned to them as they're running. He's watching them come in, but he's given himself far more room to be able to maneuver and then get back. And it was really noticeable the change in that back line second half. And as I said, I thought they were really, really good. Yeah, I mean, we'll do a separate video. There's been a lot of talk about Pope and Dubravka. I mean, being a keeper, the first goal, I mean, the pass is terrible in terms of the midfield. There's no press. It's straight through the middle. And Burn gets done for pace. But Dubravka was criticised heavily for it. And obviously a lot of stats had come up before the game about Pope and Dubravka, which we'll do a different video on altogether. So keep an eye out for that, guys. But Dubravka there, for you, Mark, is he too slow off his line? Should he be quicker than that, given the fact that Burns definitely getting done for pace? I don't think he should be anywhere near where he is. I think he's far too far out. If you go back and watch at the point in which Elanga strikes the ball, he's got Botman one side and Burn the other. He's got competition at that point for possession. Now, they may not be able to do an awful lot, but they stop him being able to go either side of the goalkeeper. I just think Dubravka's far too rash, far too quick to get out of his. The other thing as well, he's got to stay. He's not got to go. He comes out of too far out of the area. He then can't use his hands, so he's really limited in what he can do. And Elanga has a pretty easy task just to slip it underneath him. At the point in which he strikes the ball, let's say he's got a player either side, he can't go left and he can't go right. He has to go through the middle. So Dubravka being just inside the area really limits his ability to be able to do anything with it, because then he's got every option available to him. So for me, I think that was just a little bit rash from the goalkeeper.
Yeah, I mean, he had a couple of decent games, Dubravka, in terms of when he was at the Alamo at Anfield and, managed to stop it being about 26-0, 26-2, whatever the score would have been. But doesn't mean he's suddenly become a great goalkeeper. We'll cover this in a bit more. I think Marcus is bang on there as well. Sorry, wrong one there. Marcus is bang on saying we're making too many excuses for Dubravka. He's not a number one keeper. For me, there's a reason why we bought Nick Pope. And Dubravka in those instances remind you of those reasons. And I think he's not a number one goalkeeper. He probably will leave in the summer, and we'll upgrade on a replacement, or maybe we'll upgrade on number one and Pope might be the number two. You never do know. But I think for me, those little moments there with Dubravka to show that hesitancy. And I think that puts the back four on edge as well. But listen, long story short, we got out of it. We won the game 3-2 thanks to Bruno's magic. Some brilliant goals. I mean, the second goal for Bruno as well, where that's what we want to see more of Bruno on the edge of the box. Wilson's screaming for Wilson had a poor game. I thought he looked fucked about 10 minutes in, pissing a sweat, and he just looked knackered. He couldn't run for the ball. And he's screaming at Bruno for the through ball. Bruno's got no intention of it. It's that little precise curl, isn't it? He puts it right in the corner. And Matt Sells, I know we buried him at Newcastle, but Matt Sells is never going to save that mark. It's such a good strike. And for Bruno, if Bruno has somebody sitting for him, which is, again, goes back to the whole argument why they were not bringing number 6 in the summer or in January. If Bruno has somebody to sit and he's allowed to go up there, Mark, bear in mind he'd been ill as well. He told the whole world he had the shits, didn't he, on Sky Sports? No fear whatsoever from Bruno. He didn't give a shit, did he? Apart from the ones he was having through the week. But if you get Bruno third up the park, that's what he's capable of doing. He's got such a good strike on him, isn't he?
Well, he has, and it's getting him into position to actually utilise it. And like he buried that one really well in the corner. I think Sells gets a fingertip to it, but he's never getting to it.
It's right in there, isn't it? It's right in the corner. He's never going to get it.
I thought Wilson was going to lose his mind as soon as he took the shot, because you could see Wilson screaming for it.
He was foaming when he was foaming. He was shit, Wilson, though. He was shit, though. He just looked burnt. He looked spent, man. No, we got no strikers, but he just looked fucked.
Well, as a funny note, I mean, Callum Wilson never looks fully fit, does he? And I think there's an element of that. I don't think Wilson's been fully fit and fully. Look, he has his sharpness and stuff, and he's quick upstairs for getting his positioning right. But I think since Bournemouth days, when his last big injury, I don't think he's ever been fully fit. It's at least 5 years or so. So there's that. I bet he's got to do an awful lot as a focal point of a 3. It suited him when he is close to being fit, but he's the only thing you've got with Isak being out. So he needed service that he didn't really get. He battled well. I think that there's a couple of games recent where he's really led the line quite well. He's been quite bullish and tried to battle with centre backs and keep them occupied and allow others to get into the game. I think he's done that side well, but he looks a yard short at the moment.
Yeah, he does. I think Isak will be back at least for the bench, I think, for Bournemouth. That'll at least give us some options as well. But another good showing from Harvey Barnes as well. I think about half an hour this time, didn't he? Miggy was poor, very headless, final ball, really poor. Didn't really get involved in the play, just kind of ran around a bit like a dog chasing a tennis ball in the park, but couldn't find the fucking thing.
I forgot he was on the field at one point.
The Miggy of old. And again, we talked about this. I'm so happy for Harvey Barnes, because some fans were getting a bit restless about him not being able to play and, saying that he shit him and all that. And he reminded us all against Luton just what he's all about. But then coming on, he did more in about 30 seconds than Almiron did in about 30 minutes. Just that little touch of class. There was some lovely little link-up play with Tino when he was on there as well. That excites me for the left-hand side, pace, dynamic skill. You move Gordon over to the right, you got him and Trips on the other side. I mean, if you can get that fit, Mark, and play those 4, Burn takes a rest out of the team. Tino left back, Barnes left side midfield, with Gordon and Trips on the other. I mean, that's a dangerous force on that, isn't it, for any team to deal with?
It is like Harvey Barnes is a classy player, and he moves so well with the ball. And I thought it was
never wasted, does he? Never wasted.
No.
He always uses it right.
And it was, I mean, that little link for the goal, it was with him and Miley, wasn't it, on the left-hand side?
It was.
And it just
Yeah,
the little,
yeah.
and I almost thought at one point that the challenge that comes in on Barnes looked dodgy. It looked, I was trying to see whether it looked a bit like a two-footed tackle. I haven't gone back and had a look at that again. But it bounces away and ends up getting to the Forest player, who completely short passes out, to which Bruno anticipates brilliantly. But it's that pressure that comes from a player like Harvey Barnes that's willing to run at players. He can go left or right. He's not afraid to use his wrong foot. He will prefer to come inside, but he's not afraid to pull defenders wide and allow space inside. And it just shows the measure of that player. And the more game time he's going to get, he's not going to be far off a starting spot at this rate, because you can see just how much he brings to the side in an attacking sense.
He does. I just think he is that. Like I said about Bayern better. People are talking about the Bournemouth players there. You're talking about Billings nowhere near as good as Joe Linton, for example. Lloyd Kelly, yes, he could be a good cover, but you talk about Harvey Barnes. Harvey Barnes coming in was a cut above Miggy and Murphy. And that's the kind of player that we want to bring in. Gordon is as well. And you look at Tonali in midfield, he's a cut above Longstaff. Obviously he got suspended for a full season, but these are the type of players. I know they cost money, but these are the type of players that you need to be bringing in. I'm not talking 6 or 7 of them in the summer, but 2 or 3 of them. Just to increase that quality of the starting 11. Yes, Tonali will be back next season. Hopefully Barnes can stay fit. Gordon can keep fit. Isak can keep fit. Then you've got the nucleus of a really good side there. You know what I mean? And Tino coming to the side, maybe Lewis Hall, appears next season like Gordon did. Then he starts next season. Like Gordon has this season. We don't know what's going to happen there. So there is things to be positive about. But I think Harvey Barnes coming back and showing every game the quality that he has is only going to improve us as a side. And I think that against Bournemouth, if he has a good week in training, I think that he'll start that game if he has a good week in training. And I think we could start that game theoretically with Gordon right, Barnes left, Wilson in the middle, or Isak in the middle, and that's a hell of a front three, Mark, to start the Bournemouth game with.
Yeah, and look, I know your thoughts around the kind of the Bournemouth players, and I think I differ slightly with it. And I get your point about wanting better than it's there, but I think in terms of squad, they're better than what you've got outside of that core group. Billing he's not Champions League quality, but he might be a better option for the next 2 years until maybe you get back to the Champions League. Kelly, I think, had been adequate backup to those that are there now. So we'll say that one for another day, but certainly having those players back and fit and it's just almost wanting to say, just get everybody back fit, get everybody ready to go for next season again. I know it's kind of writing it off a little bit. Now, I'm not saying that, but you've got a couple back now. There maybe is 1 or 2 more to come back before the end of the season. If you can keep a good run going, certainly keep the away form going, because that seems to have flipped. Now with away form almost taken over from the home form. It's weird how that works. You never really get both at once. But if you can keep that sort of run going, pick up the 3 points, even if they're difficult games, and even if they're not as as dominant as you would like, until the squad sort of starts to come a little bit bone back together, and you're fighting in that push for the top 6. Even potentially higher, given what's going on above them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, people have got very different opinions on these Bournemouth players, and rightly so. But as Mark says, it's one from the day. But I'll tell you who is a good player. We're going to talk about this lad right now, Kieran Trippier. So obviously Bruno gets the goal from an unbelievable cross from Kieran Trippier again. And if people didn't know already with Kieran Trippier, that puts Kieran Trippier on 10 assists this season. Now, the reason we've got arguably the best Newcastle left winger, Ginola. Come on, we're going to start that debate again. It's the first player since Laurent Robert, the unbelievable thunder bastard striker Laurent Robert, in the 2001-2002 season. Trippier is the first Newcastle player to register 10 assists in a season. And bear in mind, Mark, he had about 6 to 8 weeks where he just completely tailed off. I mean, his assist record are unbelievable. I mean, the only problem with Trippier is his age. You know, he's 33 years old, and you know, if and when he's to come out the side or leave the squad or retire or move on or whatever, you know, the Bayern Munich links were there and everything else as well. This guy is an assist machine, isn't he? You know, he's unbelievable, man. He's picked up his game defensively again as well. I'll give him that. He was good defensively, I felt, and he stepped into midfield and did really well at the weekend. I think he'll do the same against Bournemouth. Whatever the problems were off the pitch seem to be sorted, and he seems to be back to where he needs to be on the pitch. But in terms of that record, Mark, 10 assists. I mean, he's playing his way in arguably into the PFA Team of the Year again, isn't he, with those assists? I mean, how important is this guy to Newcastle, man?
Massive, and this is part of the problem when we talk about moving him around, because you see what he does from out wide. His delivery was stunning. We've got to give props to whoever came up with the concept for that corner routine with the ball being played back.
Mad Dog. It was a Mad Dog, I think that's what Bruno said, wasn't it? Yeah.
And you know, Anthony Gordon is the right player to be in that position to do the block. He didn't block him fully, because then we've seen those come back for fouls. So it was done really, really well. It looked like it had been played slightly short, but the whip that Trippier gets on
incredible.
it.
Brilliant.
And he
reminds me of Beckham back in the day, just the way he used to whip that ball around.
And he knows exactly where. It's not just a hit and hope as well. He knows where he's putting it, and it falls to Bruno. Go back, if you haven't watched it again, go and watch the replay again and again, because you see Bruno on the edge of the box. No one around him. No one's even taken any notice of him, because at that point he's absolutely not a threat. And he just ghosts in at the back post, and all of a sudden the ball's landed at his foot, and I mean, it's such a good finish. But that cross in, there isn't another player in the club that can do anything like that at the moment. There really isn't, and he's so deadly from out wide with his balls in. It's really good to see. And look, I mean, 10 assists in the league this season. It's the first time he's hit double figures in a league campaign for assists since he was playing for Burnley in the Championship 10 years ago. And that's now 17.
Was that under Eddie Howe as well, by the way? Was it?
That might have been. Do you know? I'm not sure.
He was. Well, he played under both Howe and Dyche, didn't he? I think in the Championship.
It was Sean Dyche.
It was Sean Dyche. You got to say it properly.
Sean Dyche. Funnily enough, it was the season before. Was the other season? He had 11 assists the season before, and that was played under Eddie Howe until October, and then Sean Dyche from October to the end of the season. So the bulk of those assists will have come from Sean Dyche's side. But it's 10 years since he's hit double figures for assists, and that's 17 now in the Premier League for Newcastle in the last 2 seasons. So it's phenomenal.
I tell you what, if you don't keep saying Sean Dyche properly, I'm going to give you a blue card, because I know you're tired, but you should be able to say that properly, as you are very tired. That's how you say Sean Dyche.
I can't do Sean Dyche.
You sound like someone from the Muppets or Sesame Street there. Sean Dyche. Today's episode was brought to you by the letter A.
Cookie.
The Cookie Monster. God, we'll take the turn. But yes, Sean Dyche, gotta love him. Stone cold Sean Dyche. But yeah, like you say, mate, it was. I mean, to have a player at that level, like Kieran is, he'll go play with England in the Euros. That'll probably be his last competition, I think. Really, we might get another season or two out of him. I mean, it'd be interesting to see how it develops on for his understudies. Obviously, Tino's there. We're talking about Tino playing left back. Tino's definitely the understudy right back. Be interesting to see how Harrison Ashby does as well, because he's got that kind of set piece in his locker as well. So maybe he could come on and have a bit of a game as well. Do you know what I mean? Maybe Tino can work on his crossing ability. Maybe we'll sign a midfielder who's good at set pieces. We know Tonali's very good at set pieces.
And that was one of the comments that I think Ty's put in there about Tonali would have been the other one that can play those balls. Now, him sitting deeper and doing that, but he again, watching Italy, watching their 21s, when he gets into those sort of half positions and can put the ball in from those, and he's good from set pieces as well.
You need some caffeine. Sorry, Simon, that is a brilliant comment. You just saying Sean Dyche always comes across like a nightclub doorman to me. Just imagine him telling you, you're not getting in a club with those trainers on. That's just absolutely, I can just see Sean Dyche with the earpiece in, standing next to Max and Paddy at the door on the Phoenix Ice Club. That's
total separate subject. And I know this is not an Everton podcast, even though we were accused once of being an Everton podcast.
Who accused us of that? An
Evertonian? Somebody on Twitter, because we're called Evermore.
Oh my
God. The fact that it's Evermore in UFC, we got accused of it anyway.
Yeah. And our chant is we'll support you evermore.
Has Sean Dyche ever been a heavy smoker? Because where has that voice come from? I mean, and
shouting.
How was he born with it? Because I don't remember him with anything but that gravelly voice. He's chews rocks at least, because it's just a phenomenal voice. Anyway,
maybe back wherever Sean Dyche was born, rather than like smacking the baby's ass, they just gave him a regal and sparked it up, and that was from birth. that was
from Sunderland.
Was he really from Sunderland? Get away, Sean Dyche.
No,
I was going to say. Oh no, his mother was his sister.
Be too posh for them anyway.
I was going to say his mother was his sister, who was also his cousin. I can't help myself. That's what the brother said to the sister in Sunderland. Never mind. Sorry, we'll go on all day. But yeah, Sean Dyche must have definitely smoked at some point. As George says, he gargles wirewood and Dettol. No doubt about that. Simon says he gargles razor blades and weed killer. He has to. He's definitely a pint of real ale or stout man, isn't he? He's not having like a strawberry gin with lemonade or something, is he, Sean Dyche? He's going straight in for a pint of special ale, landlord.
I think it's a pint of special something and a whiskey.
Special brew.
In that regard, yeah, he's definitely a whiskey guy. I think.
Special brew and a single malt chaser. That's what he's going for. He's all about that. It's Sean Dyche. Absolutely. I could take over my Steve Bruce impression. I'll work on it. So I'll just shout for like 3 days straight, and then I'll maybe have the same kind of literal gravitas in my voice as Sean Dyche. But we've gone off on a tangent. Yes, we love you, Kieran Trippier. So moving on to the next category, is Europe on the card? So obviously we were a bit deflated a few weeks back, talking about whether we're actually going to have a chance at the top 6 or anything else as well. Just looking at the table there, Mark. So we're sitting 7th currently now on 36 points. We've overtaken West Ham after their complete capitulation against Arsenal, which was quite funny because one of the West Ham fans tweeted the Arsenal team sheet with the word beatable, which I'm sure they live to regret to this very day. But we're only 5 points behind Manchester United, who God knows who shows up in their particular thing. Villa are starting to slip a little bit as well. They're still 10 points off of us. I mean, we were talking about where realistically Newcastle could finish this season. I said a few weeks ago we'd struggle to probably get in the top 7, but now these players are coming back to form. Now they're coming back to fitness. Now we're starting to look like we can maybe grind things out, even when it's not quite going the way it should be defensively. Do you think we've got a chance, Mark, of getting that top 6, top 7?
Yeah, why not? I mean, absolutely. When you look at what's ahead now, I mean, Manchester United are not a good side at the moment. I mean, let's face it; they're set ahead of you in the table, but they're really not a good side. I mean, to be fair to, Villa yesterday, I think were unlucky in losing that game. They probably could have had 3 or 4 and easily won that, but they just couldn't. They couldn't hit the back of the net at all. Man U looked really poor, and they're there for the taking in an awful lot of games. You still have to, obviously, Newcastle still have to play them. You've obviously still got games against Chelsea and West Ham to come as well. There's an awful lot of, dare I say it, very, very winnable games to come. You've got Bournemouth to come at the weekend. Arsenal obviously is going to be a difficult one. Then Wolves, Chelsea, hitting a little bit of form, but definitely beatable. They look dreadful at times. They look great at others. So depends on which one you get. Palace and West Ham, Everton, Fulham as a 4 going through the back end of March and in the beginning of April. Why not? Why can't you? I mean, you'd be pushing top 4. And it might sound outlandish, but if you're starting to get those players back and starting to get players fit, Isak's not going to be out for too long. If Wilson gets a little bit more match fitness or a little bit match sharp, Obviously, we don't know about Willock. I think Willock might be a little bit longer term, given that we're talking about his Achilles.
That's a disappointing one. That is a real disappointing one. I'm very worried about Joe Willock's Newcastle career moving forward, I think, because that kid is he's been so vital for us, but this injury, he can't seem to shake it. And I just wonder whether they buy somebody in who can play there in that position in the summer.
I almost think it's just don't rush him back now. Let him almost give him the rest of the season just to find his,
almost like a new signing, him and Joe Linton.
Yeah, and just come back in the summer with Joe Linton. Maybe he's one or two others, but with the likes of Barnes back and Anthony Gordon, maybe he's with another week off in between these games just to get a little bit of recuperation around his injury and then the following week as well, because there's now one game a week. So you haven't got an awful lot to sort of worry about in that regard. So I don't see why not. With teams above that are going to play each other, they're going to take points off each other.
And they've still got Europe, as Graham says there. We could be fifth or sixth with some of the guys struggling with Europe.
Yeah, completely. And and especially when you look at we'll go back to the example of Villa. Villa have lost one of their key players in midfield today for the rest of the season. There are doubts around Ezri Konsa's fitness for the rest of the season as well. So they're losing players. Man United have lost Martinez for the rest of the season, by the looks of things as well, and they're not in particularly good form. Spurs can be a little bit hit and miss. So why not? Why not? Why just push for it? You may as well aim high.
Well, exactly that. It's interesting. Kev saying about Elliot Anderson is a curious one. Someone put a question to you about this. So Elliot Anderson, he's sort of teasing that he may be back soon. And we think he did put an Instagram post out. Eddie backed it up and said Elliot was getting close. This is an interesting one, Elliot, Mark. So the question I've got here is Elliot Anderson comes back fit, right? Gets back into the squad. So then you then got a midfield, right? You've got Bruno Guimaraes, you've got Louis Miley, you've got Elliot Anderson, right? Let's forget Willock for a minute, right? You've got Sean Longstaff. Is Longstaff in danger of losing his spot if Elliot Anderson is fully fit and comes in and does what Elliot Anderson has done in bits? And then if Louis Miley's still doing what he's doing, does Sean run the risk of losing his spot, do you think?
Not straight away. I just think Anderson's been out for so long. He's never really.
He'll ease him back in, but what if he comes in?
Absolutely.
What if he comes in? What if he comes in, hits the ground running, energy, challenging, goals? All that kind of. Then Louis Miley's doing what he's doing. Bruno's doing what he's doing. Is Longstaff in danger of maybe losing his spot? Do you think?
If his performance isn't there, but I think
it says Eddie loves him as well. He's one of Eddie's favourites. Yeah,
he scores 2 last week. He doesn't. He's another one that is a little bit too free getting forward at times and isn't disciplined enough, especially when one of the others or both go. One of them has to be sensible. One of them has to be disciplined and sit. And I think Louis Miley will do that. If Elliot Anderson plays, like Marcus says, he was excellent in pre-season. He's an attacking midfielder. So say, for example, if Elliot Anderson was to come on the pitch, say Longstaff starts and he comes off and he's not had a great game, just for argument's sake. I love Sean Longstaff. He runs his arse off every game, and I think he's a really good player. He's Newcastle through and through, so I'm not going to give him a hard time. But with Elliot Anderson, if he's got that ability to do what he did in the European tour, the American tour, and at the start of the season as well, if you've got Bruno and Elliot Anderson, I think Louis Miley automatically will step back 5 yards. I just think out of those three, I think Louis will drop a bit deeper. Now, he's maybe not defensively disciplined enough to be a 6 as a whole, but we have seen him drop in. Now look what he did to Ross Barkley when he got stuck into him, against Luton. And I just wonder whether Louis will have that in him to do that with them other two on the pitch. It'd be an interesting problem to have. I think it's probably the best way to describe it. I think that the sort of I guess the view of that was what he did against Forest at the weekend. He did sit deep. If you look at the heat maps for them, he was very central, very deep. He played the Bruno role.
I thought he was excellent.
I thought he did really well. I think sometimes he does get a little bit caught forward. And again, if you go back and look at the goal from Elanga, he's definitely too far forward for me. I think they've all got grouped on that right hand side. You've got Sean on the wing. You've got Almiron trying to get back. Bruno's across there. Miley's across there. Trippier's across there. Like, who the hell is covering back here? I think there's just a little bit of discipline in his game. I think he's such a good player that will come. And
he's so young though, isn't he? But can't,
exactly.
as Kev said there, we can't put too much on him at 17.
No, exactly.
You know what I mean?
And he's not been playing in that position so far. So it's a new one to learn as he's going in the Premier League. He might have played there for the younger teams and in the past, but he's never done it at Premier League level. But he showed at the weekend he can. He showed against Luton he can mix it. The tackle on Barkley, I know, is pretty much on the edge of the Luton box, but he definitely showed he can mix it.
He smells it out and he goes up and he stops that run, and that's what a good six can do. That because you go up, if you have to push up 10 yards and stop that creative midfielder before he turns on the spin, then that's what you do. But Hideka's saying that Longstaff's easy nudged off the ball. It's an interesting one. My mate was talking about this today. How he said, if I see Sean Longstaff fall over again looking for a free kick and not get one, I'm going to lose my mind. I think what Sean's trying to do is a bit like what Bruno does, but Bruno's so clever with it that he puts himself in between the player and the ball. He does that little hip swivel. It must be a Latino dance move thing. You know, you're from Shield, Sean. You maybe can't do the Latino hip swivels like that. You know what I mean? But that's Bruno's an expert at that. And he wins free kicks that he shouldn't even win at all. But Sean's not really got that game. So what Sean should probably do is just either get his head down and run and let somebody clip him, you know, or just stick a challenge on somebody. Do you know what I mean? And get stuck in and hold them off rather than try to win a free kick. And it's maybe that little bit about who he's playing with. And he's thinking, oh, you know, I can maybe pick up bits of Bruno's game. But I mean, the good thing about Sean, I think when we saw him go forward against Luton, he definitely looks like he's been working on his shooting. And I think that can only help because he gets in so many good positions that he doesn't pull the trigger. Or look at the Derby, he could have a hat trick against the Mackhams. If he finished like he did against Luton, he could have got 2 goals against the Mackhams at least. And if he keeps getting those positions, great. But the issue is, like you say, who's better further forward here, Bruno or Longstaff? It's got to be Bruno, isn't it? 15 yards further apart. Bruno's probably the one you want 15 yards further apart than Sean. Yeah,
and it's difficult because I don't think Sean's got the passing ability of the other two.
So you miss that from the deep line playmaking side, don't you?
He's not a character type. He's not going to sit. He's not going to dictate play. His best position is really where he's playing the right hand side of a 3, where he can make those runs in between the midfield, in between the fullback and the centre half, where he can get played through. But how many balls have we seen from Trippier play through that gap into running in?
Man,
he just needs to control himself when he gets there.
Just a bit more composure, a better touch, maybe he's a little bit more calmness, and he could be a hell of a player. There's no doubt about that. But that's what I'm saying. Does Anderson bring that when he comes back? That'll be the interesting one. Because if Anderson comes on for him and does exactly that, that'll be the interesting a conundrum for Eddie. He might be in a Burn Tino situation there on that side of the pitch as well. People will be saying, well, where's Elliot Anderson?
Yeah, it's one of those for us with Anderson. We've just never seen it.
No,
not
consistently enough. We saw glimpses of it.
He's just not played enough football. I mean, even last season, where he played 22 games last season, but he only started 3, and his total game time was only 410 minutes. Well, in his 9 games and 4 starts this season, he's played more than that. We just need to see more of him, and that's part of the problem. Every time we think we're getting somewhere, and we think we're right. Pre-season was a prime example. You go right now, we're going to see the real Elliot Anderson step forward and get grab games by the scruff of the neck, and then he gets injured, and you're like, here we go, kind of go again. We're just not going to. My worry is with him, we're just never going to get to see him at his full pomp,
his full potential. Yeah. I definitely think there's been underlying problem with the medical team with these young players as well. Maybe too much football, not enough recovery. I'm not a physio myself, but this isn't right. These young players breaking down like this. I know Anderson had he done his back in, and that could happen. It's one of them freak injuries and stuff like that. But you look at Willock and you look at Anderson, you look at Isaac, you look at all these players, and it's just not right. Something ain't right. So the club's invested in a new kind of head of physio now, and I hope next season we'll see the benefits of that, and we'll see players maybe not having. There won't be as much football potentially next season as well. If we do get to Europe, it'll be Thursday, Sundays, but I'd like to think that they'll sort the recovery out, but maybe we'll see these players being able to play a little bit longer than they have been this season. But to coin saying if he comes back soon, he will get his chance. I think he will. Willock's the interesting one. I agree with Mark. I wouldn't rush Joe Willock back myself because I think that would be a bad move. But we'll be holding my breath, hoping that we get some more bodies back, because it's great to have options off the bench. You see Barnes coming on, what he does, changing the game like he does. And I think when Barnes gets fit, Miggy will be the impact sub, and Barnes will have his time to win the game for us. Then Miggy either sees it out, running into corners, or doing whatever. But it's nice to have options back again, Mark, isn't it? So
definitely,
we'll move on to our last section. It's quite heavy, this section this week. Out of Tune. This is where we talk about non-Newcastle stuff, and there is only one place to start, really. Now, I'm going to take you on a little journey here, and along this think of it like a train ride. If you're on the metro or the tube in London. So these are the stops you're going to go past. You're going to go past the Undertaker. That's right, the phenom, the WWE champion, the 11-0, whatever it was at WrestleMania, Saudi Arabia, the Riyadh Cup, and Cristiano Ronaldo's balls and Lionel Messi. That's where we're going on this little trip. It's a bit of an interesting trip. So if you didn't see it, it was the Riyadh Cup between Al Hilal, Alexander Mitrovic's team, and Ronaldo's Al Nassr. And Al Nassr got beat. I think it was Al Nassr got beat 2-0, lost the final. Ronaldo spent the whole game having a wobbler because the fans were chanting Messi to him. It's a 40-year-old man, by the way, losing his marbles, saying, "I'm here, Messi's not." And these fans were just laughing their balls off at them, right? More on balls in a minute. But the game started in such a mental way, Mark, that, unlike the FA Cup here, we've just seen the Super Bowl and all the shit that went on there. But the FA Cup here, you got a bunch of, old fucking duffers come out with their trumpets, all that shit, and then you get some washed up fucking opera singer or somebody who was on I'm a Celebrity singing the fucking national anthem that no fucker knows. But no, not in Saudi Arabia. They go style, they bring out the Undertaker to lift the cup. I mean, I wasn't sure whether everyone was worried he was going to choke slam or tombstone pile drive them before the game, potentially, if the game had bad luck. But the Undertaker came out. He didn't just walk out like that and lift the cup. There was flames, the music was there, the smoke was there. I was waiting for Paul Bearer in the corner. Oh yeah, that was the only thing that was missing from all this. But absolute batshit crazy. I will pause for breath in a minute, I promise. But Al Nassr got beat, and then off the back of that, Ronaldo was storming off in a huff. He wasn't happy because he didn't win MVP or some shit like that. And he walked off. And I had to snip this up from a screenshot of a video, really, if you didn't see this. So Cristiano Ronaldo's walking off, and one of the Al Hilal fans threw a scarf at him or something like that. This is a 40-year-old man. This is a father of, 4 or 5 or something. This fucking, helmet decided to get that scarf, put it down his shorts, rub it on his sweaty ball bag, and throw it back at the Al Hilal fans. Jesus H. Christ, Mark, where do you begin to unpack that shit?
He's like a child, isn't he? He really is. Just petulant and just, I'm really glad we're shot of him in European football. I really am, because I don't even know where to begin with him. It's just ridiculous. And honestly, it kind of goes to show, as great as an athlete and great as a player as he's been, he's always had that in him. So it doesn't surprise me at all. In response to the Paul Bear one, I think he died about 10 years ago, didn't he? So,
oh, don't say he's resting in peace, mate. Come on, that's a joke. I'm not even going to do that.
I'm sure Paul Bearer died about 10 years ago. So
he probably did.
He maybe was there.
So he wasn't able to come, to be fair. So but everyone's saying Yaz flute for me. So my little trumpet there that I was doing, which was very good. So yeah, it was actually mental. It really was. I mean, look at the whole thing. You were just like, what in the fuck is going on here? Even the players were looking around going, is that the Undertaker from the wrestler? Are you fucking joking?
I mean, there was just confusion there from everybody. It really was. What on earth is going on? I mean, the fact that the Undertaker's retired. I don't think he's been in WWE for years. I mean, as much as he's done, I think he does a lot of podcast stuff these days, doesn't he?
I think he does. Yeah.
But then to dig him back up again for this is just such a weird.
Dig him back up, no pun intended.
Sorry. Yeah. It's kind of a weird flex from the Saudis for this one. It really is. Just go, look who we've got. What?
Strange.
No, seriously.
Do you know what would have been class if a corner come in and then the glass broke, and Austin just ran down like stunned. Ronaldo the penalty spot, so that would have been, with a chair, just bang. That would have been the best thing.
There's a question for you another day. What is the best intro for a wrestler? And I think Stone Cold would win, to be honest.
It's got to be. It's got to be Stone Cold or The Rock. It's got to be. I mean, they were the top. They were the top dogs, weren't they? At the time, that was absolutely quality. But yeah, very interesting times in Saudi Arabia, has to be said. It's a bit of a sideshow. But one person who's not having a good time overseas, another former Premier League super striker, is he cursed? Is the question. The curse of Harry Kane. Look at this poor bastard here. So Harry Kane obviously left and went over to Bayern Munich to obviously try to win trophies, to try to win Champions Leagues. Unbeknown to him, the coolest motherfucker in the game, in Xabi Alonso, decided to go become a manager. And never mind going from being a really good player, Xabi Alonso also happens to be an unbelievable manager, Mark, as well. And they spanked Munich 3-0 at the top of the league now. And it looks like Bayern Munich may not win the title. How pissed off would Harry Kane be if that was the case, mate?
I hate to say that's funny, but I kind of think it is, because he's gone from Spurs to just purely go and play for the best team in that league, and they're not the best team in that league. And I watching that video, you sent me the clip for the video of Muller losing his shit in the interview afterwards, and it was poetry. It really was, and what he was saying was absolutely spot on the money, and he said it with such passion. But when you've been torn apart by the likes of Muller for international level, then it was a sweet sort of interview to sit and watch.
Oh, it really was. It really was. I mean, as you say, Muller was absolutely fizzing about the whole thing. I mean, obviously, Xabi Alonso is top property now. In terms of everybody seems to want Xabi Alonso. Obviously, you've got Jurgen Klopp stepping down at the end of the season from Liverpool, and Xavi definitely being a former Liverpool player is somebody that I think they would really want. Barcelona's been linked to everything else, but I do think that he'll win. The way he's going, I think they're going to win the Bundesliga. I'm really not sure that Bayern will be able to pip them in. It'll be a close race, but listen, it's not all the end of the world for Harry. So if he is cursed and he doesn't win the Bundesliga, he may very well win the top goal scorer award in Bundesliga. But sadly, for a former Spurs player, I'm not sure that this thing will be good on his mantelpiece, given the state of it. The very similar resemblance to the Arsenal crest.
What does that look like? Yeah, genius.
Yeah. I think you might stick that in the garage, possibly. I'm not sure that's going to make the mantelpiece, mate, to be brutally honest with you. But it is quite humorous. He probably should have stayed and try to break Shearer's record. To be fair, you never know. Maybe he'll come back to Newcastle and possibly be our striker that breaks the record. Yes, but yeah, we've got plenty more to cover here.
I was going to just quickly on the Leverkusen thing, and we talked about this player just in the summer because he went on a free transfer. But what a signing Alex Grimaldo has been for Leverkusen.
Oh, mate, we should have got him.
Unbelievable footballer.
I was foaming that we didn't get him. What a player, man! He'd have been a great left back for us, man. Just terrible move by the club. Bloody terrible move. But a couple of players one player who is having a good time as well. We've got to talk about him. The Ivory Coast won the African Cup of Nations. And I'll let you tell us this story, Mark. What a great... People talk about redemption arcs and stuff like that. This player here, what a story back for this lad, mate. Mark, just break it down. Tell us a little bit about this lad here on the screen.
Yeah, I mean, just what a redemption arc, isn't it, for him? And it's... to have had to come out of the game for a while. I mean, it's 2022 he was diagnosed with testicular cancer.
It's Sebastian Haller for anybody who's on the audio.
Seb Haller. Yeah. So he was diagnosed in July 2022 with testicular cancer. He recovers back in February 23. He scores his first Bundesliga goal. He then scores the following year, so less than 2 years later, scores a winning goal in the AFCON for Ivory Coast.
Amazing.
I mean, it's just an incredible turnaround in his story arc, isn't it? And just, it's one of those that I don't care where you are in the world. I don't care who you support, or what your allegiance is to. Whatever. That is just a phenomenal story for anybody, and just wonderful, wonderful. And yeah, I mean, as George has kind of put in the comments there, Gutierrez as well was.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. It's those sorts of stories that you just sit back and go, I absolutely love it. To have gone through that pain and that process, and to come out the other side and be on that level is phenomenal. And just that's a wonderful, wonderful story.
It's an absolutely brilliant story for him. Another striker who isn't really having a great story, it must be said, is this fella right here. If you didn't get to see this, so this is Kostas Manolas, the former Roma and Napoli player. So he's gone over to the United Arab Emirates probably for a suit full of cash to sign for is it Sharjah FC, and they decided to do a little bit of media work, as you can see there. So they posed him next to this lion. If you get a chance to see the video, please go look at it, because you will laugh your balls
hilarious.
off. He's kneeling down, with your blue steel look at the camera, and then the lion just decides to growl. And this bloke shits himself so much it could have been the size of the Jurassic Park turd in the movie. And as you rightly said, Mark, what a bad day for white shorts, man. He must have left a skid or two in them, I think.
They really didn't think that one through. White shorts was a bad move. It was just hilarious. I mean, I've watched it back and back and back again, because it gets funnier every single time you watch
the lion. The lion. He didn't eat him, Kev, but he did scare the shit out of him. That's suffice to say. It must be said. But good God, honestly, these people, surely somebody risk assessment has looked at that and said, "No, I'm not really sure that's a good idea, lads. I've got to be brutally honest with you."
I'll be honest. I'm not sure they have quite the same health and safety teams that we perhaps do for the media work.
Well, exactly. Well, listen, we're coming towards the end, and Mark is very tired, so I'm just going to breathe a bit of life back into him, because this last section is about a player. You don't normally see Mark get too angry on podcasts, but this is a player that Mark absolutely loathes. He hates this player. He has hated him for many a year now, and that player is Patrick Bamford. So if you didn't see, the lead striker, scored the most blatant fucking handball for Leeds the other day. It was against Rotherham, Mark, and it wasn't even ruled out. I mean, what the fuck is going on with the game if this gets given, mate? What is happening there, man?
I mean, it's not subtle, is it? And I mean, he's got so much form for this sort of stuff. He dive against, was it Arsenal a couple of years ago? He feigned injury against Villa in the
I remember that. Was that the one when Bielsa made them take the kick at the end?
Yeah, that's exactly that was that game. And he got, I can't remember who he got sent off that day for throwing himself to the floor, but he's got form for this. He dives, he cheats. That's just a ridiculous one. And then to top it off, to then go and mock the Rotherham fans with his arm as the things. I'm sorry. I despise him. I despise him as a footballer. I mean, who the fuck does he think he is? Maradona? Do you know what I mean? It's just a horrible. He's shit. He's had one.
But he did score. He did score a worldie the other week, though, mind you.
I'll give him that. That was a phenomenal strike. He's not a good footballer. He's really not.
No,
I do.
Sounds like that posh kid in school, doesn't he? That posh kid in school whose mummy and daddy lives in the biggest house. I was always, when I listen to Patrick Bamford talk, I always think about that. Very middle class, but I can imagine he had a few big fat pie and Rotherham fans wanting to rip his neck out after that shithousery move at the weekend. But hey ho, that's football, and we're all done. There we go. Yeah, Ian is saying this is the new angry Mark for 2024. This is sleep deprived angry Mark. Yeah, this is what he's cranky.
This 2 weeks running now. I had a bit of a rant last week as well. So this is perhaps my New Year's resolution or something. I don't know.
Yeah, well, your New Year's resolution should be just record the Super Bowl and watch it later, mate. Let's go to bed. Go to bed, mate. As we're living in a world of technology, you can record these things. Yeah, I get way too old for this, mate. Your powers of recovery are waning. But thankfully for Mark, we'll come to the end of the podcast. He can go have a sleep in a minute. But thank you, everybody who's tuned in and watched tonight in the comments. We always love it. It helps the episode flow. We love engaging with you guys on this show. It really is one of our favorite shows of the week to do. As we mentioned at the start, if you haven't already, Smash subscribe, come and join us. We're over 6,500 subs. We'd love to get to 7. Would love to get up to that next milestone on the podcast. We're still quite a baby in terms of podcasting age, but you guys have been brilliant. It helped get us to such a great position in such a quick time. Would love to get that next step further. So recommend us to family or friends, guys. Tell them to listen ever more. The Monday show is always a good crack to cheer up if you're having a bit of a crap start to the week. So smash that button. Like the video too. Really helps the channel grow. We'll be back with a couple more opinion videos, thoughts and rant of the day videos about a couple of subjects this week. So stay tuned for them, and some rumour hazards are coming as well. And then we'll be back with a preview for Bournemouth. And I think Mark's on post-match for Bournemouth because I will not be here. So I think that is the plan. As he's looking at me blankly there, as he often does when I do this.
Yeah, no, I remembered this afternoon about that.
Now he's remembered. But yeah, keep it ever more, guys. Have a cracking night. Get some sleep if you stayed up for the Super Bowl, and we'll see you on the next one. Cheerio.
See you guys.